Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
You can contact us or just keep up to date with travel news at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
This is Seclo Sounds, your community radio station. If you'd like to volunteer some of your time and skills with Seclo Sounds, send an email to volunteers@seclosounds.org and let us know how you would like to be involved. MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.
To listen to the show again or to find out the other shows we have on the station, please visit www.seclosounds.org. Still to come, travel news, including the charge that EasyJet are charging passengers when they need some information. So we talked last week about using websites to find prices and the different classes, not first, premium and economy, but the class of the seat you're sitting in. And we talked about luggage and stuff like that today. But how really do you get the best seat? I mean, what about the upgrades and stuff like that? Well, my own personal view on flying first class is if you want a first class ticket, buy a first class ticket. Booking economy, it's very difficult to make that jump, especially if you're flying in a family. I mean, you stand a good chance if you're flying as an individual, because it's far easier to find a seat for one person than it is for 2 adults and 15 children. But if you really want the best seats, you should pay for the ticket. But there are ways of getting the best available seat for the price that you've paid. And it takes a little bit of time, but it's well worth doing, because you can be far more comfortable, perhaps, than if you paid for an upgrade from premium to economy. So before you book, you do need to check the seat pitch of the airlines that fly on your route. Check all of them, because they're all different. And the seat pitch is the measurement from one point of a seat to the same point of the seat behind. So it's not legroom. If I say the seat's pitch is 18 inches, that doesn't mean you've got 18 inches of legroom. It means there's 18 inches between the back of the seat in front of you and the back of your seat. So that can be very misleading. But you can check that sort of thing at airlinequality.com/product/seat_intro.htm. And as I mentioned earlier, seat width is also very important and probably means more to be how comfortable your flight's going to be than the legroom. So ensure that you check all that as well. So before booking, check and compare the prices of every airline on your route, and also check the seat pitch and your personal space. The difference in prices between the airlines, it may be actually cheaper to pay to an upgrade on the cheaper flight to premium economy than it is to, say, try and sort out decent legroom on the more expensive tickets. You need to be aware of that too. I hope that makes sense. You should just check everything. You don't just go for the cheapest price. Check how comfortable you're going to be as well. So now you can book in some instances, your seat online. You no longer need to take part in what I call the check-in lottery, where you get in really early, try to be front of the queue to get the best seats. And the first thing you need to decide, if you can book online, is the section of the plane that you would like to sit in your class. You can't book an economy ticket then try and get a seat in first class. It doesn't work. I've tried. So if you're in economy, do you want to sit at the front of economy, the middle, or the back? Well, the back may have extra room due to the shape of the aircraft, as the narrowing of the plane towards the rear means that less seats can fit in the space. And, say, Virgin to Antigua, they have what's called honeymoon seats at the rear, maybe 4 or 5 rows, where instead of 3 seats together, it's just a couple. That's quite cosy and quite nice too, because you've got an awful lot of room between the window seats and the actual window. You're not right up against it. So it's worth checking out for those at the back. However, there also is a drawback to the back, and that's the toilets. You could be very busy there as everybody's knocking and nudging you as they're queuing to get to the toilet at the back. So you need to take that into account as well. And also, if you're susceptible to being airsick, sitting at the back could be difficult for you as well, because some people can notice the sway at the aircraft at the rear, and that makes them feel ill. So although you might have more leg room, more width, more space, you could be disadvantaged because you've got people knocking you because they're keen to go to the toilets, and you might feel sick as well. If you are nervous about flying, then sitting near the wings may be the solution, as there's less turbulence at the wings. It's less bumpy for you. And the front is also good for nervous flyers because there's less noise as well. You'll be in front of the engines, so way up. And of course, if you're at the front, you'll be first off the plane and then the front of the immigration crew, and you'll also be served first at the meals as well. So going at the front has good pluses as well. But being last on and sitting in the front may mean that you may not be able to use the overhead storage bin. If the crew can't find space for your stuff, then they'll have to check it. And if it does have to be checked, make sure you remove everything which is valuable and all your travel documentation, and ask for it to be stored with the pushchairs so that it'll be waiting for you when you get off. Also, a luggage tab will have to be completed, and make sure the correct destination airport code is used. So although you'll be at the front, you're last on, first off, you may not have any storage overhead because somebody's already taken it. It's happened to me once or twice and it's quite annoying. If you are tall, like me, and you need seats for extra leg room, they can be found at the exits which I mentioned earlier, the emergency exits, and behind the bulkhead. The seats behind the bulkhead may be free, and they could be bookable when checking in online, but on long-haul flights these are usually given to passengers with babies. So if you do end up with a bulkheaded seat on your own, you could have a very smelly and noisy flight. As I mentioned earlier, only people who are physically capable of assisting in an emergency should be given the exit seat. There are several websites that can assist you in deciding the best available seat, such as seatguru.com and seatexpert.com, and these are much more useful than the plans offered by the airline itself. And the information on these sites provides you with stuff that can be very important, such as where the power pack for the in-flight entertainment is. If there's a power pack under the seat in front of you, you're going to have reduced room for your feet. Very important to bear that in mind. Where the galley is, so you might have the smell of food constantly wafting across you. And where the toilets are, which I said earlier, it's where people could frequent chatting and queuing and being generally annoying. And it could be smelly too, as I found out on a flight back from Mexico. So check the seats. Seat Guru is pretty good. It can tell you the pluses and minuses of each individual seat on the plane. I mean, there's no point having a really good seat because it's close to the galley on one side and then you're next to the toilets on the other. Not good. But if you can't book online for some reason, such as you use a travel agent, and some airlines don't allow people who use travel agents to use the early check-in seat selection, then you do need to get to check-in as soon as possible. And this can open 24 hours before departure. So you can check in at night and then go off to the hotel and then come back. So you've got all your clothes separately. However, if you're on a no-frills flight, then just use your manners and push your way through the hordes of the passengers to get that dream seat on board the plane. Although that's becoming less and less now as the no-frills are starting to charge for seat selection. But if you know that the flight's not going to be full, because you fly it quite regularly, and you're travelling alone, they'll book the centre seat of a row of three. Nobody books the centre seat. Couples don't want to be split, and somebody's very unlikely to book the seat either side of you. So, if with a bit of luck, if the flight is quiet, you could end up with a whole row of three seats all to yourself. Just something you could be aware of when you book your flights and you check your seat book your seat ahead of time. Middle seat, you could end up with a whole row of three.
Hello, I'm Mike Barry.
And I'm Bob Bluffield.
And together with Alan Mullion, we bring you The Grumpy Old Men on Saturday morning between 8 and 10. We take a look back at what's been happening during the week and let's just say discuss it.
Oh yes, we do play some good music as well. That's all here every Saturday morning between 8 and 10 on Seclo Sounds.
You can make comments about the show at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. So even though you've done all this work, you still want an upgrade. But do you really need one? Because you've gone through finding the best seat in the class available and you've booked it, you've checked it all out. But if you've got a heavily discounted ticket, then I'm afraid you stand no chance of getting an upgrade. Then the airline's far more likely to give it to a high card carrying frequent flyer who's paid a full price for the ticket. then somebody's gone for the cheapest possible online price. But there could still be a last-minute upgrade available for a cash bar at the check-in, and although you're paying, you still might get the premium economy or business, whatever, for less than you could have paid for originally. It doesn't always work, but it can do sometimes. And if it's too expensive, you don't do it, you've not lost anything. You could try not boarding early, so when your seat's been called at the gate, just hang back and then board at the end. Then you can get a good idea of what seats are left, and you can say to somebody, look, I'm sitting over here, but I noticed this seat's available. I need the legroom. Can I have it? You stand a good chance there. Economy could be overbooked, and people who are flying economy may be upgraded to the next level. But you do need to be what's called suitable for an upgrade, or an SFU. And it helps if you're flying on your own than if you're flying with a family. But if you do leave it until the last minute to check in and all the seats have been allocated in economy, you may find that you've been bounced off the flight anyway, because airlines do oversubscribe. It is sometimes said that honeymooners stand a good chance of getting an upgrade. Oh, please upgrade us, it's our honeymoon. But if, like me, you're sat near an exit seat and you've seen everybody come up saying, it's my honeymoon. If you go in the Caribbean, there could be 7, 8, maybe 10 couples all asking for the upgrade, and you're not going to get it. So don't try. Next week I'm going to go through an upgrade which is extremely risky, but I'm not going to put it in with this because you might try it. So next week, a very risky play to try and get an upgrade. But if you've got any tips about how you've had an upgrade in the past, do share them. Facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
Seklo Sounds is based at the Old Rectory, the home of our studio partner Interaction MK. They've been bringing arts to life in Milton Keynes for over 35 years. They use the arts to improve the life chances of disabled people and others in challenging circumstances through shared creative activity. These programs help participants to develop creative, personal and social skills. You can visit them at www.interactionmk.org.uk.
The information I've shared over the last 2 shows about booking flights has come from my book, The Travel Researcher's Guide. It doesn't just cover flights. I know this is a shameless plug, but it's my book, my show. Why not? The book also tells you how to find accommodation and what to look out for safety, and loads of other tips that people just don't know about when they book online. Stuff travel agents know and do automatically, but people who do it themselves don't know about it, don't do it. And these people who don't know it, don't do it, and the people who end up on these travel shows on the BBC about, oh, I booked this holiday, it went terribly wrong. And it is quite rare for me to look at a story like this and think, well, that could have been solved within 2 minutes before you handed your money over if you'd done the right thing. So the Travel Researcher's Guide, if you fancy finding out more about how you can help yourself when you book your own holiday, do your own research. And now, travel news. Way back at the beginning of the travel show, I mentioned about TripIt and reporting where you're going on holiday and social media. But apparently, sharing your travel ideas is not a good idea, because insurance companies, when they have a claim about burglary, could be checking out your details on social media without you being aware of it. The Financial Ombudsman Service has warned that comments on Twitter and Facebook, location check-ins on Foursquare, and selfies on Instagram are all being used by burglars to target empty properties. But in an effort to avoid paying out, some insurers check social media accounts when a claim is made to see if this sort of thing has been published by you, to make everybody aware that your house is empty. And this is according to a story reported in the Times. Checking social media is already common in medical claims, apparently, so something you should be aware of. The insurance companies can do this because insurance policies, well, most of them include clauses that specify that reasonable care must be taken to protect property. And having a picture of you at the airport getting on your plane really can be seen as not taking reasonable care. And the Ombudsman, the watchdog, said that people cancel newspaper deliveries to make their absence less obvious, but then post pictures of their hot trips, or even dates for the whole world to see. So although some apps are around that allow you to share where you are, what you're doing, perhaps you should be particularly wary of posting the comments that detail your itinerary. For example, that you're enjoying the first day of a 2 week holiday. A spokesperson for the Association of British Insurers said, "You should think carefully about what information